You know, there is this collective groan that happens in dealership offices across the country, like every single week.
Oh yeah, the empty lot panic.
Right. You look at your lot, you realize you're desperately low on used inventory, and you just kind of resign yourself to the inevitable.
You log on to the wholesale auction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You log on or you physically show up, and suddenly you are just fighting for scraps. I mean, you're bidding against every other dealer in town, the online retailers, the wholesalers, everyone.
And by the time you actually win a vehicle, your margin has practically evaporated
Yeah.
before the car's even loaded onto a transport truck.
It's so painful. So, welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to unpack this seriously eye-opening manual on how your dealership can completely flip the script.
We are looking at a comprehensive guide that reveals, how to stop overpaying at these wholesale auctions
Yeah, and instead build a direct vehicle acquisition pipeline. It's all about buying cars directly from the public so you can actually control your margins.
and just totally transform how you source your used car inventory.
Before we jump in, this deep dive is brought to you by DeskReadyLeads.com. If your dealership is tired of leads with no context, no intent, and no real reason to buy, it may be time for a different approach. Visit DeskReadyLeads.com to see how we can help your dealership generate better conversations with buyers who actually have a reason to engage.
So true. Better conversations are exactly what we're talking about today, too.
Right. So, setting the stage here, the sheer frustration dealerships face today is just palpable.
Oh, and my
You are out there trying to stock your lot, but the cars at auction are just too expensive. The fees are outrageous.
and the good units get bid up to the moon, right, before a retail customer ever even lays eyes on them.
It just seems exhausting to participate in that ecosystem.
Mm.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why is this the default?
Well, it is an exhausting cycle, and what really stands out in the source material is how the industry has largely just accepted this, like as standard operating procedure.
Yeah, people complain about it constantly, but they do it anyway.
Exactly. They complain about the transportation costs eating into their gross. They complain that the cosmetic reconditioning is way worse than the condition report let on.
Oh, and the agonizing title delays.
Right. The title delays that keep a car off the front line for weeks, yet they keep going back to the exact same well.
Which is wild. They wait until they have this glaring hole in their inventory, and then they run to the exact place where everyone else is also desperate for cars.
Treating the auction as your primary source isn't a strategy at all. It is a dependency.
Let's re-examine that because I want to upgrade an analogy we often hear. Sometimes people say relying on the option is like buying concert tickets from a scalper.
Sure, you pay a premium.
Right, but it's actually worse than that. It is like relying on a scalper, but after you pay double the face value on the sidewalk, you still have to pay the venue's hidden entry fees.
Oh, wow.
And you have to hire a private driver just to get you to the door.
Yeah.
And then when you finally sit down, you realize the seat is broken and you have to fix it yourself before the show starts.
That is painfully accurate.
Right, you are absorbing so much hidden friction and cost. Why do so many stores view the auction as their only real lifeline rather than, what it probably should be, a backup plan?
Because it is easy, even if it is incredibly expensive. I mean, auctions aren't inherently evil. They serve a very necessary purpose.
Right, for filling specific gaps or chasing a rare piece of inventory?
Exactly. Or managing volume when you have a massive shortage. But when you rely on them day in and day out, you are competing with entities that have completely different margin expectations than you do.
So you end up paying retail-adjacent money for what is supposed to be wholesale inventory.
Yes. And on top of that inflated price, you absorb all those hidden burdens you just mentioned in your scalper analogy. The buyer fees, the transport, the mechanical surprises.
Those always seem to pop up.
Always. Plus the time it takes to get the car front line ready. You are absorbing aged inventory risk the moment it rolls off the truck.
And crucially, you have zero relationship with the person who actually owned and drove that vehicle.
Exactly. You are buying an opportunity that has already passed through someone else's hands.
But wait, I am looking at this and I am thinking about the local dealers in my own town. Almost every single one of them has a giant "We Buy Cars" button on their website homepage.
Yeah, they all do.
Or they will throw up a generic Facebook post on a Tuesday saying, "We want your trade." So aren't they already doing this? How is this manual any different than what dealerships are already attempting?
Well, that is where we run into what the source material frames as the empathy gap.
The empathy gap. Okay, what is that?
Having a We Buy Cars banner on your site is essentially meaningless background noise today. Think about it from the consumer's perspective. CarMax says they buy cars.
Carvana says it.
Kelley Blue Book says it. Every independent lot on the highway says it. The guy flipping cars on Facebook Marketplace says it. It doesn't differentiate your dealership at all.
So it just blends in.
Completely. The fundamental disconnect here is that dealerships think exclusively about inventory. They look at their lot and think, we need cars. But customers are thinking about their lives.
Right. The customer doesn't care that your used car manager is short on SUVs this month. They care about their own immediate headaches.
Exactly. The customer's staring out their window thinking, I have an extra car in the driveway. My kid just went off to college. I want it gone, but I really do not want to deal with strangers coming to my house.
Yeah, nobody wants strangers test driving their car on a Saturday morning.
Right. Or they are thinking, I don't want to get scammed on a peer-to-peer app. I don't want to waste my entire weekend dealing with tire kickers offering me half of what it's worth.
And they definitely do not want to go to a dealership and get lowballed.
Exactly. So the campaign a dealership runs shouldn't be selling the dealership's desperate need for sheet metal. It must sell convenience. It has to sell relief.
So a real acquisition campaign tells the customer something different.
Yes, it tells them. Get a real offer from a local dealership without listing your car online. Skip the scams, the no-shows, and the hassle. You have to speak to their problem, not yours.
That shift in perspective is massive. If we buy cars as dead, what do we actually say? How does a dealership cut through all that noise and get a private seller's attention?
You have to shift the messaging from generic desperation to highly specific, targeted solutions. You have to redefine the campaign to sound selective. Specificity creates believability.
It's fascinating how a minor tweak in phrasing changes the entire psychological dynamic for the person reading an ad.
It really does.
The source suggests that instead of a vague, we want your car, you use highly specific framing. Something like, we are looking for clean used trucks this month.
Or, we need local trades and are making aggressive offers this week.
Right. It suddenly feels like a curated search. The customer sitting at home thinks, oh, they aren't just hoarding cars, they are actively looking for my exact truck.
Maybe I should reach out. Exactly. That curation makes the offer feel legitimate. But there's another psychological layer here that is arguably the linchpin of this entire strategy.
What's that?
We have to address the fear of the sales trap. Why do private sellers dodge dealerships in the first place? Why do they put themselves through the misery of selling a car privately on the internet?
Oh, because they assume they are going to walk into a showroom, get locked in a glass office, and be pressured into buying a new car they don't want.
Do you think it's a timeshare presentation?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the universal fear. They assume the dealership is just baiting them into a high-pressure trade-in situation.
And the manual is very clear on this. An acquisition campaign has to be entirely separate from a trade-in campaign.
Totally walled off.
Yes. The single most powerful line a dealership can use in these ads is, we will buy your vehicle even if you do not buy one from us.
That completely flips the power dynamic, just laying it out there and removing the strings attached.
It diffuses the tension immediately. You are giving them an out before they even walk through the doors. It removes the pressure, builds trust, and simply opens the door for a conversation.
You are telling them you just want to solve their specific problem of getting rid of a car. But does the sales team initially hate this?
Oh, usually yes. Salespeople are wired to sell.
Right.
But once they realize this strategy brings high-quality local metal onto the lot at a lower cost than the auction, the culture starts to shift.
So let's trace the next logical step. We have the right message. We know we need to be specific.
We know we need to explicitly say, no purchase necessary.
But shouting that message into the void of the internet can get really expensive really fast. Where do we look first?
The absolute best and most cost-effective acquisition strategy starts right inside the dealership's own CRM database.
Really? Just the existing database?
Dealerships are sitting on a goldmine of data that they usually only use to push new car sales. You already know these people.
You know their names, what they drive, their service history.
And exactly when they bought their current vehicle.
So who are we filtering for in that database? Who is the ideal target?
You want to look for likely sellers based on life cycles. People with older, paid-off vehicles.
Okay, that makes sense.
Customers who bought 2 to 5 years ago who might be experiencing a lifestyle change. Maybe they had a kid, maybe they're working from home now and realize they don't need 2 cars.
What about lease customers?
That is a remarkably underutilized segment. Lease customers approaching maturity. A staggering number of people don't even realize they might have equity in their leased vehicle.
Right, they think they just have to turn the keys in, pay a disposition fee, and walk away.
Exactly. Proactively reaching out to educate them that your dealership wants to buy that lease out and might even hand them a check in the process is a massive opportunity that bypasses the auction entirely.
Now, here is where it gets really interesting. That makes sense for the digital side, but the guide also talks about mining for gold in the physical dealership, specifically the service drive.
Yes. And this is where the execution can go horribly wrong if you aren't careful.
Let's look at a scenario.
Right.
A customer comes in, they have a 7-year-old SUV, and the service advisor hands them an estimate for a $3,000 transmission repair.
Ouch.
I think we have all experienced the bad version of this. The bad dealership looks at the customer and says, "Oof, this repair is going to cost more than the car is worth. Let me introduce you to a salesperson to look at new cars."
It feels incredibly predatory.
Right. You are kicking them when they're down. How do we apply this new strategy to the service drive without alienating the customer?
It requires a complete pivot to an empathy-first approach. When you hit a customer with a heavy sales pitch right after handing them a massive repair bill, their defenses immediately go up.
They feel cornered and manipulated.
Completely. The manual outlines a totally different tactic.
Yeah.
Instead of a sales pitch, the service advisor should say something like, "Before you decide whether to approve this major repair, would you like us to show you what it may be worth today, as is, if you just wanted to walk away from it?"
I love that. Instead of the customer feeling trapped by a bill, they feel empowered by an option.
Exactly. You're sitting on their side of the table. You are being genuinely helpful. You are giving them a financial exit strategy rather than an ultimatum.
So how does a used car manager actually set that up?
If they really want to operationalize this, they put up subtle signage right there in the service drive saying, "Before you approve a major repair, get a free buy offer from our used car department."
That is brilliant. It seamlessly turns fixed ops traffic into an inventory opportunity.
And by fixed ops traffic, I mean those people who are already sitting in your service bay, drinking your stale coffee, dreading a repair bill. You do it all without making the customer feel attacked.
It strikes me, though, that generating this lead, getting someone to raise their hand, whether it's through a targeted email, a lease maturity notice, or an offer in the service drive, is only half the battle.
Oh, absolutely.
If they actually follow through, walk into the dealership, and get treated like they just asked for a test drive, this whole facade crumbles instantly, right?
It collapses entirely. The operational mechanics, the actual internal processes of the dealership have to be completely re-engineered to handle this specific type of customer.
Because if you treat a seller like a traditional buyer, you lose them.
Yes.
The analogy I keep coming back to is the restaurant and the tomato farmer. It's like going to a restaurant because you want to sell the head chef some of your incredible homegrown tomatoes.
Okay, I like this.
But you walk in the door, and the waiter keeps aggressively trying to hand you a menu and seat you for a steak dinner.
Right.
You are there to supply them with inventory, and they are treating you like a consumer. If a customer raises their hand online, asks for a buy offer, and the dealership's BDC, the Business Development Center, calls them back and cheerfully says, "Great, what vehicle are you interested in buying today?" The trust is gone.
The customer immediately thinks, I knew it was a trap.
Exactly.
That is a perfect visualization of the culture clash happening inside these stores. Hardwiring a BDC rep or a floor salesperson to suddenly act like a purchasing agent goes against years of muscle memory.
So how do you fix that funnel?
Well, fixing the funnel is crucial. It starts at the very beginning of the digital journey, the landing pages. When a customer clicks that highly specific ad we talked about earlier, do not dump them onto your generic dealership homepage where they have to hunt for a phone number.
Right. Send them to a simple, dedicated page that answers their specific fears.
Exactly. Will you buy my car? Yes. Is the offer free? Yes.
Yeah.
The form needs to be dead simple. Name, contact info, vehicle basics.
I imagine if you force them to create an account or upload 15 high-res photos of their car just to get the process started, they are going to bounce.
They will bounce straight to Carvana. You have to remove all friction. And speed to lead is critical here.
Speed is everything.
A seller who is checking what their car is worth online is absolutely shopping that offer around. They're on Kelley Blue Book. They're looking at online retailers.
If your dealership takes 4 hours to respond to that lead, you have already lost.
Yep. But as you pointed out, the response has to be the right kind of response. The BDC script has to be rewritten for this specific pipeline.
So if I'm the BDC rep, my instinct is to get them on the lot at all costs to sell them a car. How should that initial phone call actually sound to keep the trust intact?
The rep has to confirm the outright purchase intention immediately, neutralizing the pressure.
What does that sound like?
They should open with something like, "Hi, I saw you wanted to get an offer on your vehicle. Just to be clear right up front, you do not have to buy from us. We can review it for an outright purchase. What's the mileage and general condition?"
Wow, that sets the tone perfectly. It is helpful, direct, and honors the promise made in the marketing.
Exactly. Okay, so the BDC does their job perfectly. The customer feels safe. They bring the car in for an appraisal. Now we hit the final boss of this process.
The appraisal itself.
Yes. The appraisal has to actually be transparent. You can't run this beautiful, empathetic, customer-first campaign, get them in the door, and then just slide a piece of paper across the desk with a lowball number and expect them to be grateful.
Right, because consumers are inherently suspicious of the dealership appraisal process to begin with. They think there's a man behind a curtain pulling levers.
If the appraisal is sloppy, secretive, or feels like a trick, they will take their keys, leave angry, and probably post a nasty review about the experience.
So how do you fix the appraisal?
You have to show your work. The used car manager needs to turn the screen around. Explain the current market demand for their specific vehicle.
Just walk them through the math.
Talk openly about the reconditioning costs the dealership is going to have to put into it, new tires, fixing that dent in the bumper. Show them the local retail position so they understand the math.
Validate the offer you are making.
Yes. Because even if the seller declines the offer because they think they can get a little more selling it privately, a transparent, respectful process builds long-term trust. They might just come back to you for their next purchase.
And communicating all of this internally seems like where the ball gets dropped most often. The source makes a massive point about CRM notes.
Oh, the notes are everything.
The notes in the system have to be crystal clear so the sales team doesn't accidentally pull a bait and switch when the customer finally walks through the showroom doors.
The internal handoff is the most vulnerable point in the pipeline. If the CRM note just says, "Lead submitted, appointment at 2 p.m., a hungry salesperson is going to walk up to that customer with a dealer plate in hand and say, "Ready for a test drive."
And ruin the whole thing.
Exactly. But if the note explicitly says, "Responded to truck buyback campaign, seller only, explicitly told no purchase required," the salesperson knows exactly how to handle them.
They know to greet them as a supplier, not a buyer.
That context is what prevents the whole campaign from imploding at the finish line.
So, as we zoom out here and looked at the big picture of what this manual is proposing, we are identifying the auction as a dependency rather than a strategy.
Right.
We are changing our messaging to solve the customer's headache rather than shouting about our own inventory needs. We are mining our own database and service drive with empathy.
Empathy is the key.
And we are overhauling our internal processes so we treat these people like valuable suppliers. What is the ultimate takeaway here for the dealership's bottom line?
The ultimate takeaway, the real win, isn't just getting more cars on the lot. It is total margin control.
Margin control.
Yes. When you buy a car at the wholesale auction, the market has already priced in the competition. The margin is squeezed before you even place a bid.
But when you buy directly off the street, you are entirely cutting out the middleman.
You are avoiding those massive auction buy fees. You are cutting out the transportation costs because the customer literally drove the inventory to your front door.
That's a huge saving right there.
You are getting cleaner vehicles with local history, straight from the person who maintained it. And most importantly, you are capturing that vehicle and securing your margin before your competitors ever even get a chance to see it.
You are building your own self-sustaining ecosystem.
It is a fundamental shift from being a passive buyer of wholesale goods to an active acquirer of local assets.
So, what does this all mean for you? If you are listening to this right now, whether you are a general manager looking at shrinking margins or a BDC manager struggling to get your team to drop the sales pitch, succeeding in the modern used car market requires building your own pipeline.
You cannot just wait around and let the auction lane dictate your profitability.
Exactly. You have to go directly to the source. You have to make it incredibly easy, transparent, and safe for the local public to choose your dealership over the massive hassle of a private sale. Every single car you buy directly from a local owner's driveway is one less car you have to go fight for and overpay for at the auction.
Well said.
So I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question that really builds on this text.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
The source lays out a brilliant roadmap for dealerships to bypass the auction by going directly to the local public. But it makes you wonder if enough dealerships successfully adopt this hyper-local direct-to-consumer acquisition model, what happens to the massive wholesale auction industry itself?
That is a fascinating question.
Right. Could forward-thinking dealerships eventually become their own micro-auctions, maybe trading directly with each other and cutting out the legacy auction houses entirely? It is definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.